What is something your current or past employer would not want the world to know about their company? While working at Greg, customers were told we'd recycle their old TVs for them. Really, we just threw them in the dumpster. Can't speak for Greg Corporation as a whole, but at my store this was definitely the case. McAllister's famous iced tea is really just Lipton with a shit ton of sugar. They even have a trademark for the famous iced tea. Their website says, "We can't give you the recipe, that's our secret." The secret's out. Lipton plus sugar equals trademarked famous iced tea. I work for a government agency. Two of the people routinely sign in for 8-hour days when they probably work 5 or 6 at most. Just your usual waste of taxpayer money, says the guy who is on Reddit 8 hours a day. I was forced to dump over 35 jugs, 1 gallon each, of muriatic acid into a hole in the ground. They, a retail store that is not Walmart, made me dig, and refused any form of eye/breathing protection. I was overwhelmed by the fumes, and nearly reprimanded for not finishing the job. Just a quick edit, to add some additional info. I was a kid at the time, and this was my first job. This happened around 15 years ago. Also, just to repeat it because some of you don't get it, this wasn't Walmart. I've never worked there. I'm sorry, I didn't see being a ducking pussy listed as one of your skills on your resume. Not Walmart manager. I used to work at Claire's and the Icing, same company. We got about 15 minutes of training before we were allowed to pierce kids' ears. If people bled on the ear piercing guns, we would simply wipe them off with a tissue, and use them again on the next person. We were also never taught anything about cross-contamination and blood-borne pathogens during training. I would never take my kids to get their ears pierced at the mall. Choose a reputable body purser and take your kids there. Some people are afraid of taking their kids to body pursers because they look sketchier than the pretty mall down the street, but body pursers will use an autoclave, and most of them, if they are any good, are trained to properly deal with blood and bodily fluids. The person at the mall, no matter how much experience they say they have, does not have the proper tools to deal with blood. About 99% of our piercings did not draw blood, but the 1% that do, are definitely not dealt with well. I tried my best when I worked there, but there's only so much you can do when there is no equipment on hand to properly sterilize anything. While working at Staples as an easy tech, we would scan a computer with Malwarebytes, not with the shitty Norton we were given by corporate, like we were supposed to. If a cookie or something worse would pop up, we would charge them $169.99 to have someone in Canada remove it for them. Even if it was a cookie, I would have to tell the customer that it was a virus, and their system's integrity was in danger. An old lady came and dropped off her computer, Marianne. She knew me by name and only trusted me. She had me put new memory in, which I charged her an extra $34, company policy, and she asked me to do a virus scan. I found a cookie from a stupid game site that her grandson liked to play on. I removed the cookie, marked the computer done, and then called her to tell her that the computer was ready to be picked up. I didn't tell her she had a bad cookie, or that there were any issues, only that there were no viruses. She came and picked it up an hour before I got there the next day. That day I was called in the office, and they fired me. Yep, right there. I performed a free service apparently. What got me caught was that I didn't delete the Malwarebytes log of the cookie, and my supervisor found it. Apparently he scanned the computer earlier before me, and found that cookie, and wanted to make her pay for a virus removal. I wouldn't be surprised if he put it on there himself. When he saw that computer was ready to be picked up, and there was no notes about a virus, he checked the Malwarebytes log. Duck me for having a conscience. Now I am on month 3, and I cannot even get a job at Walmart because I was terminated from Staples. I work in a shipping company warehouse. Fragile stickers don't do anything for your package until it's in the courier's hands. Maybe your shipped items are going to get beat the duck up. Wrap it 5 times in bubble wrap. If you think you're being too cautious, you're not. Warehouse workers don't care. Your packages are going to be loaded into a hauling truck. stacked in no specific order, slammed around while transported, then throwing around by workers sorting them. I'm sure this is already common knowledge. Just a friendly reminder before the holiday season comes full swing. Doctors and nurses bury their mistakes. Seriously, if you or your loved ones are admitted into a hospital, you need to keep a vigilant eye on the nursing staff and doctors. They will sometimes overdose patients and blame it on a bad reaction to the drugs. Edit: if you or a loved one are checked into a hospital by the nursing staff on that unit, muffins or donuts or some kind of snack. They will provide much better care because of it. I know it's ducked up, but that's how it works. At Walmart, all of the peons, cashiers, deli workers, janitors, electronics associates are given as many hours possible without it being full-time so that they don't get benefits, and the managers get bonuses for keeping labor at a minimum. If you're ever looking to buy something from a Cash America pawn store, you can tell how long the item's been out and how much the pawn shop has into the item by reading the tag. The date is always printed on the tag. You get a better deal on items that have been on the floor longer. They use a code so an employee can decide how much they can take off if the customer asks. So it goes like this: Mary Louise equals M1, A2, R3, Y4, and so on, till you get to E0. So the code will read, YLE or $45. Happy bargain shopping. I worked at an IVF lab, fertility center, in a major city in the United States. Our center was on the medium-large end, doing about 2,000 IVF cycles per year. They wouldn't want the public to know this. Exactly what everyone fears will happen, happened. More than once. An embryo belonging to one patient was transferred to a completely different patient's uterus. You hear about this in the news occasionally, but for every case that is published, there are a few that don't go public and just quietly settle with the patient. I worked for Blockbuster. Those collection notices you would get in the mail? Yeah, those were fake. We didn't have a collections agency. They were just meant to scare you and didn't hurt your credit. Source: my store manager. My old employer did a donation drive to support the soldiers back at the beginning of the Iraq War. We had 3 huge boxes full of all kinds of stuff: soap, shampoo, books, magazines, DVDs, the works. When the owner found out how much it was going to cost to ship all of that overseas, he said, "Duck that," and divided up everything to all his favorite employees. I still feel a little rage when I remember that. I used to work for Sears. The week before our Black Friday sale, we had to mark everything in the store up. I specifically remember marking the treadmills up an extra $500. Then for Black Friday, we marked them back down about $200. They were on sale for an extra $300 than they normally would have been. Worked at a restaurant, the Elephant Bar in Columbus, Ohio, in case anyone is wondering, and the managers made us save uneaten food from customers' plates and serve to other customers. If your side of carrots wasn't touched, it would go back into the warmer and get reserved. Same with dinner rolls and anything that could be passed off as new. In college, I worked at a shitty, independent movie theater. One of the employees was a serious cokehead. After a show, he'd go into the theater and pick up several popcorn tubs and drink cups. He'd shuffle those back into the stacks behind the concessions counter. He'd resell them, not tally them in the count, and pocket the cash. Ducker was nasty. Context for people who didn't work in movie theaters: the managers inventory every cup and popcorn container at the start and end of each shift, to be sure that everyone that goes out is paid for. It's why the employees can't give you an extra cup. Bank of America. Tellers are all about sales. It is highly unlikely that any of the products they advise you to sign up for are good for your financial situation. Many times they will actually be detrimental, but the position is a sales position, not just a friendly face to help you with transactions. Spring water bottling plant. Tank was found to have bacterial content above regulation safe levels. They chose to finish the night's run before cleaning the tank.
buy a water filter. I worked at a beverage plant years ago that made Arizona iced tea, Tropicana, Nantucket nectars, etc. There was one drink that we produced and the label said, made with spring water, and it was. Each 600-gallon batch that we made had exactly 1 gallon of spring water poured into the tank. I can taste it. The spring water. It's good. My best friend used to work construction, and one day he was on a site right behind a restaurant. One day he sees a guy come out the back with a ton of trash to throw in the dumpster, and they had huge vat of barbecue sauce/soup or something. He dumps it in the dumpster, and as he finishes a manager comes out and yells at him for wasting it. Kid says it expired. The manager forces the kid to scoop it all back out of the dumpster, so they could sell it. My buddy and his friend stood there in shock as they watched this happen, and sure enough he scooped it out and took it back inside. This was in Memphis, Tennessee for your information. Edit. Got in touch with my bro. It was Corky's barbecue, and it was potato salad and coleslaw.